photograph it for Mr. Reynolds.
I don't know when the motor come down.
No, I can tell you she has some kids so far.
It seems so uncharacteristic of her since maybe in the 60s it was very formality perhaps.
Remember those pictures of people going places?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. On Broad Street.
They're still doing this Google.
I remember going to the grocery with my grandmother in white gloves.
I think my mother had those gloves. I think that worked in the I think that was
I'm reading this book while I'm listening to this. It's painting. It's really interesting. Look into old medieval art homes that have cabinets that have 1500s in the way. It's funny how where people would put on white dusters and white gloves. Handling documents.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Glad to have you for the Chatham Area Transit Board of Directors agenda for July the 14th. Nice to have all of you here, and nice to have our visitors and some of our staff members, and of course the visitors with us also. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
Chairman McCacken.
Here.
Dr. Thomas.
Here.
Mr. Broker.
Here.
Mr. Dawson.
Well, we'll just hold that, and then if he doesn't come, just mark it as, well, I need to talk to him too, like I've talked to the others, to see what his situation is, because there might be a vote for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. French?
Here.
Mr. Holmes?
Here.
Mr. Madoff?
Here.
Ms. Osborne?
Here.
Ms. Stone?
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the meeting of June the 16th. Need a motion on the floor.
Second.
Have a motion on the floor and a second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, action items. Insurance renewal, marine and public officials liability. Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're here today to request board approval of buying coverage for marine insurance and public officers liability program that will renew in July and August. We solicited proposals on behalf, Seacrest Partners on behalf of CAT, which is our insurance broker, solicited proposals. And the proposals today before you, first, one of the things that we've been noticing in the public officers for management liability and employment related, there's been roughly around the country about a 10% increase. CAT's experience has been better than the industry norms, and we experienced a 2.8% increase for the management liability, employment, public officers insurance, which is a total of $563 a year. And in terms of marine services, the insurance rate for the marine services remained flat. If you recall, 2 years ago, that insurance for marine services was about $244,000 a year. So right now we're looking at an insurance rate of just under $100,000 for marine services compared to the $244,000 we were experiencing in the past.
Mr. Chairman, Executive Director Chad.
Yes.
What does the marine insurance cover?
What it covers our boats in case of liability, and it also covers hull insurance.
I saw the hull, that's possible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We don't carry any passengers on us, so we don't have to.
Yes, we do.
We do?
That is for the ferry operation.
Oh, for the ferry operation.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
the passengers are also covered.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And they're covered up to a $1 million insurance policy, and then we also have a reinsurance the excess insurance coverage of $1 million on top of that.
Thank you.
What it does not cover is any type of pollution. So in case we have a spillage or anything like that, it doesn't cover. But there are only two ways we can have a spillage, given the way the tanks are situated. That is, if the whole boat sinks, or if it happens while they're being fueled, and we're ensuring that our fueling provider provides that service for CAT.
This is a trivial one, it's not trivial, but when I've been on the ferry, I know you've got to have them, but I don't see, where are you storing your life jackets?
Yeah, Jimmy Gummins, he here.
Okay.
The life jackets are stored underneath the seats of the boat, and there's placards on every seat that tell you how many life jackets are under each one. So in the case of emergency, they'll make an announcement and let you know that the life jackets are stored underneath the seats of the boat.
I just didn't see them, and I thought, you know, you need to have those.
Can I ask a question on that?
Bill?
I was just, what is our exposure in terms of the amount of fuel that's on one of these boats at any given time?
The two smaller ferries, the older ones that we got in 03 are 1,200 gallons total capacity. The new one we just received in 2012 is 1,600 gallons.
So that would be the maximum amount of fuel
That would be the maximum
that is spilled.
Yes, sir.
I guess we don't have to worry about icebergs or.
Just container ships.
Splashing through the tank. Yeah.
Not icebergs.
Yeah.
Staff is recommending the board provide approval to bind the coverage in an amount not to exceed $108,497.
There a motion on the floor?
Move for approval.
Second?
All right, I have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 3, maintenance assessment and,
To the coastal region.
oh, okay, I was ahead of myself on that one. I thought we did it invisibly. Coastal Regional Commission Service Agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff is requesting board approve a service agreement with Coastal Regional Commission. Coastal Regional Commission and CAT have continued to operate the service over the past few years under an extension of agreement that was initially between Coastal Regional Commission and Chatham County. The Coastal Regional Commission provides rural transportation in the 10-county coastal region area of Georgia under agreement with the Department of Transportation. The essence of this agreement is that 90% of the funds to provide services in rural Chatham County and the 10-county area are provided by one by a federal agency and the other by a state agency. So there's a section under the federal funding allocation that's known as Section 5311, which provides services for rural, non-urban areas. The 5311 funds are administered through Georgia Department of Transportation to the Coastal Regional Commission on behalf of CAT. Those funds are then matched by the Department of Human Services, which is a state agency, which will comprise 90% of the cost of what it takes to do the service. As a result, there's a 10% remaining balance, and CAT will be responsible for a maximum of 10% of the cost to provide that service, minus any fare box recovery received. So if it's 2% fare box recovery, we would do 8. If it's 5%, we would do 5. So we've been operating the agreement under an extension agreement for a number of years, and this would formalize that process. And it also would give us authorization to pay the existing payment that's due. And I think the chairman and Dr. Thomas are familiar with this because it's been going for some times. There are a couple of items still to be ironed out. So staff is recommending approval of the service agreement pending final legal review and approval on a couple of technical issues associated with the program. And we would, just as a clarification of what it would mean for CAT, it means that people in the rural part of the county would receive services under the CRC would in effect become a subcontractor to CAT, and we would also use their services for overflow situations associated with our paratransit service. and that would relieve us of having to buck up staff, vehicles, just for the peak. So in overflow situations, we would use CRC for that service.
Helen?
Okay, a couple of things in the, fifth paragraph, it is agreed is written twice. Now therefore, and then you get down in there, it says it is agreed, that needs to be fixed.
What paragraph?
The fifth paragraph. Also, I think you answered one of my questions, this would help with paratransit, correct?
Yes, it would.
Okay, and is there, I mean, I guess I don't live in a rural area, so door-to-door is absolutely necessary. I mean, you can't, I'm just trying to think of how efficient. My concern is an additional burden and expense on CAT and your employees. But you're saying this will actually help
Yes.
because of the paratransit.
Because we would benefit from using 45% of the funds that are coming from the Department of Human Services, which CRC is eligible for, but CAT is not eligible for.
Okay, and it says that, CRC will furnish to CAT schedule invoice usage. No-shows are listed in here. How are no-shows gonna be handled? In other words, if they're repetitive, will these the people that are not showing up, will they be entitled to keep using the service?
No, we will require them to follow CAT's no-show policy.
Okay. And then on number 11, it says no officer, director, or employee of CAT will be personally liability for performance. Can we put or board members as well? I mean, it doesn't address board members, and I think that we need to be listed in here, not to assume any liability. I mean, maybe that's understood, but I didn't see it.
I think we're considered directors, are we not?
Yeah, you are considered directors.
Okay.
No officer, director.
Yeah.
Okay. When I think of director, I think of someone who's actually directing the staff. I just wanted clarification that there was no liability to any of us with this agreement. I think, I'm sorry, I think those were all my questions.
Priscilla?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Helen, for asking those questions. Those are very good questions that needs to be addressed. I sit on the Coastal Regional Commission. As a matter of fact, I was just got elected as the vice chair. And I have been reviewing, the information here very closely between CAT and the Coastal Regional Commission, and I feel very, good about it, and I will continue to keep an eye on stuff. So if anything changes, we can be right on top of it.
I guess in the concept and the theory of this is to bring people into the community for their needs or to benefit the community. I mean, I'm just trying to get my arms around.
Yeah. I may be able actually to respond to that, because I know, for instance, the Matthew Reardon School is in my building, and I see kids getting off the coastal area buses to go to the Matthew Reardon School. And I think that a lot of people who are disabled, in particular folks who live in very rural areas who utilize medical services and the like, because I notice in the hospital and in doctor's offices and the like, I see those coaches with some frequency.
See, I haven't seen them around town, and I'm just curious as to what the whole, what started this and what the need was, or was this something to get people here to use our restaurants, our...
I think it's a response to the isolation of rural people, because, the people that utilize this, that initiate trips, are people who live in Bryan County, Cameron County. I mean, it's...
And you see the buses all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing out there.
But I guess I don't live in the downtown area, so I just haven't seen them, so...
Oh, yeah,
In fact, I saw one yesterday, but it's a twofold, Helen. It's to bring people in, that helps bringing people into there. And then also for them to receive services that come into our community. So it's twofold. They're helping those people for transportation, and also those that come into the community. It's good for us because they come into the community to do other things also, where they could spend money and all.
I was just wondering what was the motivation behind it, I guess.
And it's been on the books for a long period of time. Yeah. But go ahead.
But this is new. It used to be contracted with Chatham County.
That was the initial agreement, is with Chatham County, and then it's been under the CAT auspices for the past few years, but we never did a newer separate contractor agreement. It was just a continuation of the old.
Again, this would help us with the paratransit.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, to me, because when I'm looking at your report, the paratransit numbers keep going up, and if this would help offset some of the demand on paratransit, I think that would be very positive. So I assume these vehicles are equipped to handle
Yes.
paratransit.
Go ahead, Wayne.
I wanted to ask what the fare structure was. Is it $3 per?
Yes, it's $3. It is charged $3 for one-way trip. Yes, it would be $3 that they would have to pay.
And then the second question was, what percent of the 10% do we expect to recover from the fare?
2%. So we're looking at, we're anticipating roughly 8%.
And they do not operate on weekends.
Go ahead.
And I was just gonna ask you, what does that work out to dollar-wise? Do we know?
67,000 a year.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, all in.
Move to approve.
Huh?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the Coastal Regional Commission service agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
One more question. This is gonna be the final agreement with the grammatical.
Yes, ma'am.
And Alan Burns' name is spelled wrong at the end of the contract as well. I think
Interesting, it came from them too.
I was wondering about that. Maybe a Freudian move there.
Mr. Booker, we will spell your name correctly before we send it
Oh,
out.
that's.
Item 3, maintenance assessment and training.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff is requesting board approval for maintenance assessment and training for maintenance technicians. CAT solicited proposal from qualified vendors. We're looking to award a contract to Universal Training Institute to provide training for automotive, diesel, collision repair, marine services employees. The UTI will come in, conduct an assessment, and conduct a series of training classes at a cost of $32,480. We have Joe Morris, our Director of Maintenance here, who can address or entertain any questions you have in this proposal.
Any
This is
questions?
something that goes on every year.
No, ma'am, this is the first time we're doing this.
So presently, the employees that do the work that's under this, are they not trained?
They are trained, but they're trained on the job training, and this is a formalized training program.
And in the future, and so in the future, a person being hired for this position would have to undergo this kind of assessment and training?
Well, Joel can speak specifically to it, but we're employing ASC training.
ASC certified technicians. Right now, we have one position that's available right now, and I'm doing a extensive background on everyone that we bring in to interview to make sure that they're qualified to keep up the vehicles that we currently have right now. just recently, the board has approved to move forward with doing rehabs on our vehicle. I want to make sure that we have the best possible technicians to maintain the monies that we are investing in our equipment.
So, I'm not sure that I heard the answer I was looking for. If a new hire comes on board, they
Yes,
have to
ma'am.
undergo this training?
Well, I would like to put him through the training, but what we have right now, we do have a trainer. I do have a trainer on staff
You got a trainer.
that will go through this process also. So he'll be able to train anyone we bring
Okay,
on
good.
board.
That's my answer. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I was still a little unclear. If we have a trainer on staff now, and we seem to have been doing this for a long time, what are we gonna gain with this contract? What's our goal?
Well, if we take a step back, one of the issues that we have is we have a very, very senior maintenance staff, and the maintenance staff has been around when they were actually known as mechanics, and now they're known as technicians, because I mean it's a different world. And what we sat back and we looked at as part of the process, the hurdle to overcome, in a nutshell, CAT for the past 5 years has had a series of small training incremental steps to try and bring the overall level of our mechanics or technicians up to a certain level, and it wasn't effective. So what we did this time is we decided to come in, start from scratch, and build from that level up. So that's why we're doing bring in outside professionals to do an assessment of first each maintenance employee. They'll also do an assessment of what skill level we have to be at, and design a curriculum to bring all of the maintenance employees up to a specified level. So I say that in comparison to, we have different levels or different stages of maintenance technicians. So we have a B, C, and so forth. So the more you learn, the more skills you have, the more you progress through the system. So this is a formalized way of doing it, as opposed to the piecemeal approach we've taken for the past few years.
And do you see this being a continuous program that you're going to do more than once?
Well, we will probably do it more than once, but it won't be once every year. So it may be a once every few years. That's more of a tune-up to, particularly as new technology emerges in terms of what we're doing.
Because it didn't seem to me when I read the proposal that you're spending that much time here.
Well,
So I was kind of surprised that it seemed to be fairly quick and fairly inexpensive. So that, I think, was leading to my question is, are we getting enough?
How many hours is it?
It's 3 weeks of training right now, and there are different modules that each technician will go through, and the functional assessment actually will determine what module each technician should have. If I'm a master in one subject, I may not need to go to that. I can go to something that I really need, and that's what the assessment is about.
Yeah, I'm not arguing the program. I just want to make sure that we're going to get out of it what we need to get out of it.
Yeah, and I do think in the future that we will need additional training. You know, as Dr. Reese mentioned, as technology grows, we'll have to grow with it.
So Chad, how large
Wait a
is
minute,
this staff?
James, she had her hand.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Go
My
ahead.
question is, I heard what you said about the levels, A, B, C, and F. In this program, if someone does not cut the mustard past A, they just stay at A?
Well,
You mentioned the fact that we have a lot of senior mechanics.
Yes, ma'am.
Senior persons.
yes, ma'am.
And if they can't acclimate and go up, escalate and go up the scale to the highest
The short
level.
answer is they'll stay at the position they're at.
Okay.
So they'll
So
start as a
nobody
C.
will lose their jobs.
No, they're not. It's not about losing.
Okay.
They could lose their job if they can't perform at the level they're supposed to be.
Okay.
But they won't be promoted until they
I got you.
have some
That's
level of
my
proficiency.
concern.
But we need every level. We need every level of person here to do the lesser jobs to do the greater jobs. We need every level of technicians.
I understand.
Okay, James.
The maintenance, the mechanic staff,
Yeah.
you're 14 people.
14, and how many categorized in the senior stage?
We have 2 master mechanics. We have 5 A mechanics, and we have 4 B mechanics and maybe 2 C mechanics.
But in terms of senior, they've been here for a while as well.
Yes.
So
Over 20 years, some of them.
so so if you've been here 20 years, and we have 20-year B mechanics.
Yes.
Wayne.
We bid this out.
Well, we received proposals on it.
I kinda got the impression maybe this was the only
No.
response to the proposal.
Well, no, we got 3 quotes from 3. I actually went to Gillick, which is the manufacturer of the vehicles that we have. UTI is the proposer that we have before you, and W.W. Williams, which is one of our contract vendors that we have provided this level of service. But UTI was the only one that could provide everything that we needed. I've actually went through the training myself as a technician years ago, and it's a very good school.
Were the others comparable in price?
Not that offered everything that we needed.
Okay.
No, they would piecemeal what I needed. This came as a package deal.
Okay. Priscilla?
Are we including any new personnel to be included in the training? Because when I'm looking, at the number of people who are seniors,
Yes, ma'am.
and at some point in time, you don't want everybody to go out at the same time or near the same time, and then you don't have, you have to regroup all over again. So
Right.
while you're doing the training, I would suggest that we find, some other people to begin the training and then continue to move forward, rather than wait until the need arises.
That's one of the things that I want to take a look at
Okay.
in the near future is apprentice program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to when people are retiring, I need
Yes.
to bring people in.
Very good.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Need a motion on the floor for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, item 4, the IFB passenger amenities. Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff is requesting the board approve the issuance of invitation for bid for shelters, benches, and trash receptacles. We have been doing our passenger amenities program in small increments. We had proposed a couple years ago, I believe, Terry, right, that we do a larger passenger amenities program, and there was difficulty getting bidders to respond to it because most of the people who would respond are smaller construction companies that did not have the capital to put forward to fund the program. So we're looking at this proposal to issue an invitation for bids, and we would basically purchase all the benches and shelters and trash cans that we will use for this entire year, and put the program out and try and have it completed within a 4 to 6 month period, as opposed to stretching out over a 12-month period. So this will be a firm fixed bid proposal. Bid, sorry.
Some of these shelters gonna be located
Yes,
out.
ma'am, absolutely.
I was gonna ask that question.
And,
I just ride by so many areas in my district, and there's no shelter, there's just a pole.
And the shelters are
Will
not
not be
gonna be
sombreros.
sombreros,
No, sir,
okay?
it won't
Very
be.
good. Very
Put all
good.
the
Look, I'll
sombreros
take a
that Mr.
sombrero
Frank
for
had.
a pole, you know?
Yeah, well, that's what they call those particular shelters,
I know.
and it's good for one person unless you have a couple of people sitting on each other's lap, 3
No,
in
there are
a
2
row.
seats, Pete.
And then the rain hits you. If you call that a shelter, I mean, you get just as soaked if you were standing out in the middle. Okay.
Pete, could I just ask, And so how many new shelters will we be looking at?
In the neighborhood of 20 to 30.
Okay.
We're doing a combination of benches and shelters. So we put the pad in place and put the benches and trash cans in it. So we'll do part of them that way and part a complete one. And where we have the benches and trash cans, we'll come back and add the shelter at a canopy top at a later date.
And are these being put into place based upon, I know we developed some guidelines.
Yes.
In terms of, where we'll put benches, where we'll put shelters and
Yes,
that
sir.
kind of thing.
Some in mind.
Passenger amenities guidelines.
Right,
Yes,
right.
sir.
And I really do hope that, and you can do as you will, but when we do this, it'd be awfully nice just to put some sort of sign
We
up.
will have the signs up.
That says,
yes, sir.
Cat's got you covered. or
Yes,
something like
all
that,
right.
I like that.
We got
I like
that.
Very catchy.
Very
catchy, very catchy. So we do my advertising.
Okay.
James?
With that in mind, the plan that Alderman Mayor Osborne had for Waters Avenue, have that changed ever plan down there?
No, actually, we have one super stop under construction. At Overthorpe Mall. It will open up Monday.
Okay.
So we're putting the final touches on that. And as part of this process, we'll look at completing the Waters Avenue project.
Completing it, you haven't started.
Well, we got the design.
Okay. I'm at brick and mortar.
Yeah, we got the design.
Do you have an anticipated date?
We're working on the anticipated date.
Yeah, you
brought a smile to the face the next day. Will you let me know when you have the anticipated date, sir?
Yes.
Thank you.
But Overthorpe Mall will be opening on Monday.
I don't care. I don't even go to the mall.
And as we get more money in there, we take care of the absolute needs we know of. But when we get that extra money, we should put more shelters up, because I know members of this board and others, including myself, have ridden around and see families standing out in the rain, and all there is just a sign, saying this is a bus stop and other information on that. But I mean, that's really important that we get that as soon as we can, that we make that after take care of those things that we have to, but to do that because that's an important amenity for the people that use Chatham area transit.
So,
As a comment on these things, I'd like to thank Chad and the people at CAP, because in the Quaca Road and 17 area, they have shown up. I mean, there's more and more stands and benches and covers than there used to be. And I think they're doing a much better job of cutting the grass around them. I mean, it used to be you drive through these things and the grass would be up to your knees. You'd have people standing on the side of the road and weeds. So I think somebody's doing a better job of maintaining all of those structures. You don't see the trash overflowing as much anymore. It's a very positive step.
Okay, we need a motion on the floor for the passenger amenities.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion on the floor and a second for the passenger amenities. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next, we have under item 4, presentations. Chad?
no presentations today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Now we have the executive director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Executive Director's Report. This is our final report for the year. For the month, I'll give you the monthly statistics. Ridership was down by about 4,000 or 5,000 people, 1.9%. Productivity was down slightly on the fixed route side. On-time performance was up. Increase in complaints, but fare box recovery remained steady. Paratransit was up 6%. Productivity fell from 1.8 to 1.76. On-time performance was consistent. We had 7 complaints during the month. For the year, we finished up 1.3% on a fixed route. Marine service finished up slightly at 0.08. Paratransit was up 8.5%. We carried a total of 4.4 million passengers on all CAT services last year, up 56,000 or 1.3%. We will not have a monthly report in next month's board report. It will come August, September. And September report will be a new reporting format, which will provide more detail, give you a breakdown on weekdays, Saturdays, Sundays, more analysis, again, so that the board is aware. So it'll be a totally new reporting format. So next month you won't see a reporting format. It'll be the month after, and it'll be a different format altogether.
But inclusive of the numbers of the previous month?
It will, the numbers will actually lag a month. They'll give us enough time to do all of the analysis, roll out the new formatting, and place them in line with our financials. As you see, our financials lag a month with our ridership, so this will make all our reporting statistics equal to one another and give you more in-depth information about what we're looking at.
Wayne, in the new format, will we have a breakout of the CAT freedom numbers?
We will have a breakout of CAT freedom. We'll also have bicycle information, as Ms. Stone and then wheelchair and what else, Kurt?
How many passengers on paratransit have companions or if there's children? Just a variety of information.
So it'll be a much more comprehensive report, and what we'll probably do during the first meeting is set aside some time to walk through it in depth and detail so that everyone understands what we're looking at and we're trying to report.
I think it'd be real helpful to have the wheelchair boardings, because maybe if we see those numbers rise and we see the numbers in paratransit start to go down, then we can see some progress in being able to move people from paratransit to mainline.
Right.
So that would be good information.
How you coming? Helen, go ahead.
Just, I know I mentioned this last month, I'm just a little bit concerned about the last few months, the decrease in ridership, and maybe this new data will tell us more, but I'm just trying to figure out why.
Well, that's one of the things that we're gearing it toward, because as I mentioned in the past, we report ridership, and if there's a major increase in ridership or a major reduction, well, we usually know what causes that. What we have difficulty identifying is incremental increases or incremental decreases. So we're reformatting it differently, doing a different level of analysis to begin to identify that. So hopefully, at some point in the future, if you all ask the question, I'll have the answer as opposed to I'll look into it. But I'll come to knowing, well, ridership is up because of this, it's down because of this, and this is what we're doing.
It's just a concern.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I comment on that? Yeah, I agree with Helen on that. I know that over the past several months, we see this very slight, but difficult decrease in fixed ridership. I'm glad to see that it's increased over the year. So when we look at our statistics for the year, and that's a really good thing. It's just, it's just kind of a bit of a quandary and a head scratcher, and hopefully, with the new way of keeping these stats, we'll be able to discern better its basis. Thank you.
The other thing too is that if we compare the periods of time that you see a decrease in ridership to the previous same time period, would that tell you anything, Curtis? Like school is out?
Yeah, well, what Dr. Reese did not mention was we actually ran less service hours this past June than we did in 2014. And if you look at the passengers per trip and on those routes and multiply by the amount of hours we ran less, it was a 2.6% swing in ridership. So if we're down 1.9 and the 2.6 was due to running less hours, we would actually be up in June. But because we ran less hours, it was enough to swing it to the negative.
That's
But Curtis, wouldn't this just mean that people took a different bus? If you run less hours, that doesn't mean that people didn't get on the bus at some point, does it?
Well, not necessarily, and again, like Dr. mentioned, we're not analyzing little bits of data, we're looking at ridership as a whole, so it's difficult to ascertain when you have such a small swing, well, what exactly happened in there. But by pinpointing and spreading out our categories of what happened during the ridership, we can see maybe better fluctuations as opposed to saying this route as a whole for the month.
No, I agree with that, but I'm just not buying a direct correlation between reduction in service hours because the buses are still running. Somebody would just get an earlier or later bus, wouldn't they? They wouldn't just not ride.
It's possible, yeah, or they found a
I'm
different way.
having trouble following the direct logic.
Yeah, if the service hours are reduced on a certain route and the person can't use that service or that route to get to work, they could find another route, or they could just get a ride. I mean, there's no way to tell.
Bill, do you have something?
I had a more general question after this discussion.
Oh, okay. Any other questions?
I assume this new system will give us a better understanding of some of this data.
Yes, that's the game plan, and give us a better understanding as well.
You got anything else on your
No,
report?
sir.
That's it? Okay, let's go to unit updates, and this is information only. Number one, safety and training update.
The safety and training report is in your packet, and I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Yeah, it's covered in there, in another section. All right, service delivery update.
The service delivery report is in your packet. I'll entertain any questions you may have. It's important to note, though, we are anticipating a reduction in ferry boat ridership over the next 6 months.
Why is that?
Icebergs.
The way that our ridership increases and decreases is usually due to the fact there's conventions booked in the trade center, and when there's an off year, when somebody may book in 2013 and they don't come again until 2016, our spikes will reflect what the trade center is doing as far as convention business. So if you see a decrease in our ridership, it's usually because we might have a group last year during June that we didn't have this year, and they'll be back in the following year. So that's how our ridership goes up and down.
And so we're anticipating fewer conventions over the next 6 months.
Yes, sir. This is one of this next 6 months is kind of an off year, but it should pick up. We were up this past fiscal year by 0.08%.
Yes.
But it should even out throughout the year. You know, we should pick up some more groups towards the end of the year.
But what could happen too within that period of time is that somebody, checks with International Trade Center and could, at that particular point, come in if a date is available, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's not set.
No, it's not. We may pick up some groups. You're right. It just depends on how hard the trade center staff is working to bring groups in, and the CVB and everything, working together.
Joe Marinelli.
And on that end, Savannah is a finalist for the Georgia Transit Association Annual Conference for the year 2017-2018. So maybe we could have that conference return.
Okay. Systems development update.
It's in your packet, and I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Can I ask to bounce just backwards for a second? On the numbers for the Airport Express, which is still pretty low.
Yes, sir.
With 2 passengers per hour. I mean, I know I've complained about it, I haven't complained about it, but I've mentioned it before. When you leave the airport, you're still not seeing a lot of signage. We've got signs up now in those pillar boxes, and they're very good signs, but they face the wrong way. So you see them when you come into the airport, but you don't see them when you come out of the airport. Now, I still think we're not advertising ourselves well as we walk off these airplanes.
We'll be talking about that this afternoon, because we still think it's important. The link, the 2 issues, is we got to address the parking if we're going to get local people to use it. One, here from Savannah, particularly downtown, we've got to be able to have a place for people to park if they're going to use it. One. 2 is that we have to be able to get people on the shuttle before they show up in Savannah. So, and that's gonna be an internet-based marketing approach, that somehow when they're buying tickets to book them to Savannah, we've gotta be able to flash similar to how Super Shuttle or another place would be if you're going to Denver or to Atlanta or somewhere. So we've gotta look at that approach to get the people before they actually land.
I totally agree with that, but I think you've also, if anybody's waffling when they get on site between the cab and the shuttle bus, then they've got to get them at the airport.
Yeah, and let's do this, you can get with the airport chairman over there, the head of it, and see about, let's checking on what Howard was saying about the signs and anything else that we can do to let people know when they come in, because when they come out that door too, usually you've got those in line, like the taxis, and they don't even have the opportunity to even get on the bus in some instances. So that's what we need to do to see how we can address that on that chat.
Yes, sir.
I know this sounds a little far-fetched, but would there be a way to put some little kiosk there that you could buy your ticket, and it would be a promotion as you're getting towards leaving? I mean, I don't know what the airport would allow that.
Inside the terminal? Is that what you're
Yes,
suggesting?
yes.
Inside the terminal.
Inside the terminal, because that's where people go to get rental cars and what have you. If there could be just, and I realize maybe it could be electronic, maybe you wouldn't have to have somebody there, but if you just had some little reminder that you can get your ticket right here and you can take the shuttle, and it would have a schedule, and somehow, I don't know, I agree with Mr. French. I think we are definitely missing the bus.
That's good.
Having a kiosk,
We're just
having
full
a
of it
kiosk,
today.
you need to find out, because, listen everybody, because you have to pay, these people that have the signs and all in there, they pay for that. So what we need to do is we're giving a service to those people that are getting off, use that. When you talk to the management over there about what Helen just mentioned about a kiosk or something, that you can get the passengers ahead of time,
Yes,
in
sir.
addition to the signs and whatever.
I mean, when you get
Airports
off
have
in Atlanta, when you get off, you can
It's
buy
right
your
where-
morning ticket.
Right, but not only that, it's right near where you get your
Exit.
baggage claim.
Right.
So you know.
We will, we'll have an update
Yeah.
at next month's meeting
That's
in terms
good.
of what we're doing with that.
But Dr. Reese, I also agree that you're absolutely right on the electronic web, when you're buying your plane tickets or you're booking your hotel, to get a pop-up box or something with Expedia.com or whatever you can do with it.
Right.
There've gotta be ways to better market what we're doing.
Exactly. I think that, the passengers that we're carrying is 2 per hour. This is gonna be a pretty expensive service for us to offer.
And then it's not only that, it's the way they come. So you can run 2 or 3 trips and carry no one, and then on the next one, the curve is overflowing. And so we've got to, we'll look at that as part of our new operating report.
I was gonna say, that's something we need to tweak, is what hours do we need to be there and what hours do we not need to be there?
As you can analyze all that
Yes, sir.
from the experience. Okay, very important, financial update, and let's go into that.
The financial report is in your packet, and I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Well, let's talk about some of these things, because if you look at that, that shows how our overall system is being run. It shows the monies that have come in. It shows where we've got a lot of positive with these different figures and all. And I think that's important right now, that let's talk about some of those now.
All right. Well, I think Ms. Stone had a question, and then I can.
Well, I
Sure.
mean, I'm looking at these balances, and so we're doing very well in making these payments and doing what we need to do. What is the projected time frame that CAT can get all of this taken care of, resolved, paid off?
On the long-term note, we make a $1 million payment each January, so we'll have 4 more years on that. The line of credit will have a zero balance at December 31st. I would not recommend to Dr. Reese or to the board that we completely eliminate that line of credit. I'm not saying we
In
have
case
to
we
run
ever
that
need it
balance,
again.
but I think we might reduce it as opposed to completely eliminate the line of credit, but know that it will have a zero balance and be there if we need it for time emergencies.
I agree with that, but, I mean,
So
what
4
I'm
years.
looking at is our debt.
4 years, $1 million a year.
But also, I think it's important to note that we're balancing paying off the debt with also building a reserve, which was
That's
the,
great.
It's the only way to strategically change how we operate on an
That's
annual
right.
basis is to kind of slow down the debt payment as we build a reserve, and we can shift from the bank to our reserves for financing.
But if we ever reached a point that our reserve was healthy enough to, in essence, pay off this a little earlier than scheduled, I mean, I don't wanna close that door, because the more debt you carry, the more, it's costing you. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, you've gotta have some reserves, it's
Right.
very important. But if we ever got a healthy enough reserve that we could shorten.
That long-term note payment, yes.
And I think we're approaching the situation, if not this year, next year, we're gonna have to come back to the board with some formalized reserve policies in terms of how reserves would be set up, which would be restricted reserves, unrestricted reserves, reserves for
I agree
insurance.
with that.
And we're not at that point yet, but at some point, as part of this process, we've got to take a long-term view. And with that being said, we're doing a couple things, August, September, October. What is the 5-year budget?
We're planning on asking the managers and directors to submit a 5-year financial plan, and this will be the first time we've asked them to look past a year. So when we look at a 3, 4, and 5-year plan, we'll be more likely to be able to plan for early debt retirement and to continue to build reserves.
And so we're hopeful to have that in place as a internal working document. Obviously, it'll be a living document, but it gives everybody an idea.
Well, we should have a financial plan.
In terms of what we're looking at going forward.
I'm happy to hear that we're gonna establish a policy. Years ago, when I served on the United Way Board, our policy was to have at least a 3-month reserve on hand, so I don't know what we're looking at.
For us, that would be $6 million.
Well,
Every
I'm just
month,
telling
operating
you, I don't know what we're gonna come to.
reserve.
But also, we would also need to have some guidance from staff, because with the potential of putting into the reserve on an annual
Well,
basis.
and the reason we want to do that is because what we want to prevent from occurring is what happens at a number of systems is you get a reserve, and the next immediate step is you cut the tax rate, and then in 2 years all the reserves are gone, and so we want to make sure that we have a concrete policy in place that does 2 things, that sets up how the reserves would do it, but then at some point would trigger the tax adjustment to a certain level, but not jeopardize the financial future of the authority. But in terms of where we're at for revenue, we're about 18 million in revenue with 10,000 greater than budget. Our expenses are about 17.9, we're $138,000 less than budget. On the expense side, right now, total expenses over revenue equals 13,000 for the month of May. So year to date, we're proceeding quite well. We see some fuel savings. We see some benefits for the Special Service Tax District. We see benefits for the PM program as well as for the fuel expense. So that's what we're looking at on a month-to-month basis, and what we're at annually. But we are still anticipating, we're in the process of closing the books, and we will close the books, in the black. So, which would be, something significant for CAT, for the first time in more than a decade.
And I could add to Dr. Reese's assessment. If you kind of look back to January, you can see as we hired the new drivers and we were able to become fully staffed, benefits to our overtime rate and our salaries in general on the fixed route went down. And also, as the organization pulled together with our quality council efforts to contain cost, I've seen operating costs now show in April, May, and June that they're averaging a lot less than they were before. So all of the internal efforts have really helped make the last half of this year better than the first half.
Very good.
And in here, where it says total expenditures over revenue equals $13,318 for the month of May, but the total revenues over expenditures equals $144,748 for the 11 months ended May 31st. And these figures are really good, and that just shows, what our staff, what Chad has put in, our director has put into place, and working with the staff is making a big difference, because we can see what's been going on in the last number of months, turnaround in our financial position, so that we're able to take care of things. And hopefully when Chad finishes this lobbying and the rest for coming out of this big bond issue, I guess it could be somewhere around $75 million. How much are we going to receive, since we have the second largest area transportation system in the entire state of Georgia? So keep that going good with you and the staff, because we see a big difference now.
I'd also like to compliment the staff and Dr. Reese on the performance this year, and I hope we can get this in the Savannah Morning News, that we were able to wind up in the black for a full 12 months without increasing any millage rates for the last couple of years. Because I think that's really important to get that message out.
Yeah, they were pretty.
Okay.
Can I ask just a quick question? Is there, are we going to see any impact in the change in the manner in which the fuel tax is levied?
We have anticipated that as part of the budget, yes.
And what's that going to look like?
$120,000?
Between $115,000 and $120,000 if our usage stays the same and the price per gallon stays the same. We left our budget at the higher rate from year before last to anticipate that cost, and also any increase in fuel prices, which has been very low this year.
Right. So, but what we've lost is an exemption that we previously had.
Yes.
For paying the fuel tax.
And that's the 115 to 120 that will cost us on top of what we're used to paying.
Okay. Did the school system lose that as well?
Yeah, the school system lost it.
Yes, the school systems lost it. Private bus systems that serve college campuses lost it. Basically, the General Assembly did away with almost all of the exemptions from motor fuel tax for any type of activity that is on the road. And that was a non-negotiable point.
Okay. Under old business.
I don't have no business, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask one
Bill.
question? I was curious, several meetings ago, we talked about, some overtures that were being made to the school system, in terms of our perhaps coordinating some services with the school system and that sort of thing. Is that anything?
It's not going to happen this year.
Okay.
But we're still working, reviewing it. We'll possibly start next year. We do have some services that we will probably be coordinating with some of the private schools. And I can give you some more information on that. We have a route review committee meeting this afternoon to kind of finalize some of the plans and the information we've gotten back from the routing and scheduling to bring back to the board. As one of those, we're looking at a proposal that would provide some service on the islands, to some of the private schools, not exclusively school bus service, but would coincide with their bail times, release times, to provide some of those services.
Okay, good. New business.
No new business, Mr. Chairman.
Well, would this come under that? You know, we all received a sheet for giving the information and the things that our director has done. Everybody was given that information, and then it's been analyzed to a degree, and all of that. Can should we put that up under new business, make a vote on that too, because there's a situation that we do have is last year there was no request from the director about what's in his contract about a 10% bonus, and he did not make any requests last year, but this year he has requested that that if we would consider giving him the 50% less than that, a 5% bonus for his work for the last year.
Shouldn't that be an executive session?
The discussion should be an executive session. The vote obviously would have to be taken in open.
Right.
So we can do that in executive session.
Discuss it, but not.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Right.
yeah, because that's fine then. All right, no new business then. Okay, then the next, we need a vote on executive session. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, requesting to go into executive session for personnel issues.
Move to go into executive session for personnel.
Second.
Discussion.